to me, life purpose is really about being your full self. So your purpose is to be who you are. It's to be the fullest expression of you. It's not about what you do. That sometimes adds an additional layer of stress, like, well, I don't know what that means. So what I would suggest to anybody sort of seeking personal development and what does really light them up, I would say take 10 minutes, set a timer for 10 minutes and do something that really brings you joy and just have fun with it.
You are listening to Personal Development Mastery Podcast, where you will find both the inspiration to grow and the actions to implement towards your next level. I am your host, 𝗁𝗁𝗵𝗄, and my mission is to inspire you to stand out and live your best life. I interview thought leaders, authors, entrepreneurs, spiritual teachers, exceptional people who will inspire you to improve your life and offer, through their wisdom, actions you can take and implement. Tune in for 2 new episodes each week and make sure you follow the podcast to get the episodes as soon as they are released. In today's show, I am delighted to speak with Dr. Corley Carter. Melissa, you are a rocket scientist and Air Force officer turned writer, artist, speaker, leadership coach and champion of resilience. You are a global marathon runner and you are the author and photographer of the book Running the World Marathon Memoirs from the 7 Continents. You are passionate about helping people reconnect with their true selves and remember how powerful, unique, and awesome they are. Melissa, welcome to Personal Development Mastery. I'm delighted to speak with you today.
Thank you so much for having me, Agi. It's a pleasure to be here.
I don't often have rocket scientists in this show. I think you are probably the second one. but
Awesome.
It is your story, and I would love to start with a few elements of your story. There are many to choose from, but that background that you always wanted to become an astronaut. When I read that, you reminded me of that movie with Jodie Foster, Contact, she was obsessed about space and the stars and watching them. So, do you want to take us back and share a bit of background on why did you got intrigued with that in the first place?
Yes. Oh, I love that you brought up Contact. I read that book when I was little and saw the movie, and it's still one of my favorite movies of all time. So absolutely loved it. Yes. So I was always interested in space. I grew up watching Star Trek and Star Wars and looking at the stars at night. And when I was in 5th grade, an astronaut came and talked to my class. And from that day forward, I was set. I knew I wanted to be an astronaut, and I chased that path and didn't really look back. And went down that road for 20 years, doing all the math and science, getting the engineering degrees, and I had bad eyesight, so I knew that I didn't actually qualify, but I sort of trusted the universe that they would eventually allow eye surgery, and they did. So I got eye surgery, so I had 20/20 vision, and all the stars aligned, and I applied in 2012, the first time I was qualified to apply, and ended up actually, it turned out that my eyesight before LASIK was so bad that I was disqualified anyway.
Oh.
So that was challenging for me. So it was really this 20-year dream that I had identified myself as a future astronaut pretty much my whole life. Didn't really know who I'd be without that. But it actually took that moment, I think, to really ask myself the question, what did I really want from it? And it's taken actually several years in retrospect as well. That was actually about 10 years ago when that happened. Thinking about what was it? Not just, ooh, that would be really cool, when you're in 5th grade and then you just run with it. As I've thought more and reflected more, I realized that what I really wanted was to be able to inspire people to greatness the way that astronauts had always inspired me. And I feel like I also have always intuitively known that I was spiritually connected to the universe. And somehow in fifth grade, that sort of tangibly presented itself to me as be an astronaut. But it's really about what, when you ask, what did you really want? Or what is, for me, what I've learned from that is, what is the goal behind the goal? Why do you want what you want? And I think that's so important for people to ask themselves about dreams.
You have opened many topics simultaneously with what you just told me. But one thing that came to mind was from the fifth grade, then it was not just a childish dream. Then you dedicated 20 years of your life going and creating that identity, as you said, which at some point, and you went through the story rather quickly without I'm sure there were many highs and lows before that ending point that you were, rejected. But
Absolutely.
I can relate, and I appreciate what you're telling me about the second, or the why, the reason behind the reason. I think that's you called it something like that. Because it is one thing to do something for ourselves, but the reason behind the reason usually is not about ourselves. What do you think? It's about, sharing or contributing or others rather than ourselves.
Yes, I think so. And I also think it's a feeling. It's more of a feeling and a way of being more than the goal itself. And the cool thing about that is, with the sharing and the feeling, is there's so many different ways to achieve that. But we get so set on the actual 3D interpretation or the goal itself and think that's what's going to make us happy. But it's really, there's so many different ways to come to the end objective, as it were, of feeling a certain way, being a certain way, and sharing your gifts with the world.
Can I then, I would like to, before we go in deeper in that, tell me also about your transition to coaching. Was that something that came to you as a result of what we were just talking about, sharing, or was it something else?
Yes, I think so. I've actually always been really good at people, listening, team dynamics, people and leadership has always really inspired me, and finding meaning, whether it's in books and literature or in life itself or in someone else's path, helping someone to shift their perspective and illuminate a different way of looking at themselves, a different way of looking at their lives, and gaining the inspiration and motivation to move forward and make maybe different choices. And so, I sort of naturally always did that. And I sort of came to this point in my Air Force career after the astronaut rejection happened, and I didn't really know what I was going to do next. I came to a decision point where I could either, stay in for the rest of the 20 years to retirement, or leap and do something different. I didn't really know what it would be, but I was definitely feeling the call to leap. And I had started to hear about this thing called life coaching, and actually when I left, I became a reservist, and then I started my own business as a coach. I got certified as a life coach and just found it to be what really came most naturally to me of again finding that meaning in life and helping other people rise to their best selves.
Thank you for your answer, and I find very interesting that moment where you said that you could carry on and do another 20 years of what you were doing, but you had you took the leap, that's the word you used, and I'm sure that people who listen can relate to that, and also we know that this leap requires a certain amount of courage, and that's why not everyone takes it, even though they reach that crossroad, but they do remain in the, maybe the comfortable or the familiar. So
right.
What's something you would say to someone listening now that they are in that crossroad and they can see the leap, but they're very hesitant to take it?
So there's a couple different things, and I think that so there's kind of two roads. One, I do want to say that you don't have to quit your job to live a purposeful life. And I think that stresses people out sometimes, thinking, oh no, say I want to go be a nature photographer, but how does that, how do I make a living doing that? But they feel like if they don't actually quit, they will somehow be failing at their life purpose. And that's, not true. So just want to say that right off the bat, that there's small steps, we, in the space theme, small steps, giant leaps. You don't have to take a giant leap right off the bat. You can take small steps in different directions and try, experiment with things, bring more joy and purpose into your daily life while you're doing your job, to pay the bills and all that kind of thing. And so that you can explore expanding the edge of your comfort zone without throwing yourself into terror. So there's that fine line, right, courage, but you don't want to just set yourself up to be living on the street, as it were. And you also can, if you have the resources in place, you can make that giant leap and see where it takes you. So I think if it's fear that's holding you back, I would say, what's on the other side of the fear? Because a lot of times especially in our modern day, our bodies respond to existential fears as if they are physical threats. So if you're at this crossroads, your body may be responding like you're facing a saber-toothed tiger, but it's actually just an existential thing. Like there is amazingness on the other side. There is fulfillment on the other side. So don't let the existential fear stop you.
I like that very much, what you said, that it does feel like it is physical fear, even though it's existential, as you said. I would like, certainly, this is very interesting, but I will have to change gears because I must ask you about running. You have done something extraordinary, something not many people, as far as I know, have done, and that's to run a marathon in each of the 7 continents. I have only run one marathon myself in one continent, which...
Congratulations, that's huge still.
It's very huge indeed, it is. But of course yours is at a different level. So do you want to share what made you take on a feat like that? What was your motivation?
So that was really interesting because I did not have run a marathon on my bucket list. I'd never really considered running a marathon, but after I graduated from college and I was in my first Air Force assignment, you run when you're in the military, you have physical fitness tests and things like that. And so I had been running more, and a friend of mine who was a really good athlete took me on longer and longer runs. She took me on my first 8-mile run, and that was certainly an experience. And I was actually telling my mom about my latest running escapades, and she said, hey, there's a marathon in Big Sur, California, which is a beautiful place off the Pacific coast of California. And that really intrigued me. I thought, wow, how cool to be able to run on Highway 1 through Big Sur. And that was actually motivation enough. It was September, the race was in April, and I thought, wow, I could train for a marathon in that amount of time. I'm not fast. I definitely don't break any records. I am not at the front of the pack. I just cross finish lines. So for me, it was all about the experience. And so I did that first marathon, and at the Race Expo, the couple days before the marathon, when I was getting my packet and all that, there was actually a booth for a group called the 7 Continents Club, which I had not heard of before, but they go around running marathons on all 7 continents. And I thought, wow, that's really cool. And it just, the idea landed, and I couldn't let it go. It was as soon as it became a thing, I thought, well, I can't not do it now. It's there. So it was really more of like, people ask me why I did it, and my reaction is kind of like, why not? And so it definitely called to me and just had to be done.
That's the impression I got when you said it, that you were instinctively called to do it, like it. It's one of those things, and I felt that when I ran my marathon, that it was like something wanted to be expressed through me, this experience, and then to share it, which which you have. So you've done the one marathon, you enjoyed it, and then you carried on. One thing that I enjoyed when I was looking at your book, which has some amazing photographs, by the way, with your trips around the world and the marathons, was something that you were, let's say, correlating this journey, this outer journey, which is epic in many ways, traveling in 7 continents and running a marathon. And also correlating that with the inner journey, which I can only imagine it's even more epic than the outer journey, but maybe not necessarily as easy to express and describe and share that with other people. So if I were to ask you, Melissa, what do you think are the similarities between the inner and the outer journey in your case, and the differences, or maybe the main one anyway?
Yes. I really discovered through running marathons and training for them that running is a really big metaphor for life. And, if you think of life like a marathon, you break it down into smaller pieces to be manageable. So, you literally just take it one step at a time. What I found in my training, I would be starting a run, and if it was a 20-mile training run, I'd finish 1 mile and I would think, oh my gosh, 19 to go. It sounds like so much. And a marathon, you're at 1 mile 1, you have 25.2 to go. It's crazy. But what I found was over and over and over again, I always got to mile 19 or mile 25.2 and there's only 1 mile to go. And I found that literally if you just put one foot in front of the other over and over and over again, you get there. And so I think when I think about life, I think that that's so important. First of all, now there's a couple, but the biggest difference is that the marathon does have a definite finish line and somewhere you know where you're going. In life, there's not really a finish line. I mean, there's, our end of life, but it's not, there is no plan or course that's laid out in front of us that we just have to follow the map, or follow the other runners. So in that way, it's different, but the strategy I think is the same, which is put one foot in front of the other and have faith that the sort of the path will reveal itself as you go. So in life, you don't need to have the whole thing figured out. I think that's sometimes what holds us back. Like again, at that crossroads, we think, oh no, I don't know what's going to happen if I leap, or I don't know what to do, 5 years from now. You don't have to know what to do 5 years from now. Just take the first step and then the next one, and the next one will show up. And as you keep taking steps, the next ones will show up. So it's really that idea, that concept of being able to take it one step at a time instead of being completely overwhelmed or paralyzed by the full marathon itself.
Hi, it's Aggie here, interrupting you with something you may find useful. One of the most frustrating feelings is when you're trying to focus, but you can't get your brain to concentrate on the important work in front of you. This happens to me all the time, and if it happens to you too, you are not alone. 40% of people say they have to make a big effort to concentrate. But if you're having trouble getting focused, I have a solution for you. I'm so excited to be partnering with Brain FM. Brain FM is a great app, and I use it to block out my mental chatter and zone in on my number one priority of the day. Brain FM uses functional music that is backed by science and research, and it is designed to give us that extra edge when we need our undivided attention. And they also have relaxation, meditation, and deep sleep modules that help you unwind and recharge. So if you want to be able to place your full attention exclusively in the activity you choose, whether that's meaningful work or relaxing or getting high quality sleep, right now, as my podcast listener, you get 20% off Brain FM subscription at brain.fm/Aggie. That's an amazing deal for such a useful app. Thousands of people have given 5-star reviews to Brain FM. Find out why? brain.fm/Aggie. you talked about marathon being a metaphor for life, and you were saying how, marathon has a definitive ending point. Maybe life is maybe a series of marathons, so one after the other,
right.
Because you usually have some point of relaxation afterwards, and then you carry on. So it might be, but right. I very much understand and appreciate the metaphor and how you described it about, moving on just one step at a time. And that's really all we can do. That's really all anyone can do. No one moves to the end line immediately. They have to go through the steps, and then before that they have to go through the training. And what you said earlier about many people not being overwhelmed because they can't maybe see with clarity their end point or their... I think that's normal. It's normal not to be able to see it. We can't see it. We have very, very limited perception, which is only, our own, or maybe from some other people's perception. But we can't. So I think for me it is a matter of having an idea of the general direction you want your life to take, and taking again I will reiterate what you said about taking the small actions, the small steps, and looking what's happening, am I in the right way, reevaluating, and just keeping on going, and you will get there. We're just, I think we're very impatient as human beings, especially when you start a journey of maybe personal development or wanting to do success and all those things. There is this level of impatience, and I will hold my hand up right now, because I'm not saying that I'm patient. I would like things to happen faster, but I think there is a fine line to realize that maybe that faster is not the faster that we perceive, because there are so many other factors combined just to look at what would suit us. So
yes. And also, Agi, I love what you were saying there too, this sort of vision, and sometimes we actually have a limited vision. So thinking this pressure to know the ending, when we come up with an ending, it actually may be too small for us. Like, the universe has way bigger plans. And I'll say for me personally, with the astronaut rejection, it felt like the end of the world in the moment. And yet what it woke me up to and the higher purpose that it initiated me into is way bigger and better. So I am so grateful for that moment. So I think also reminding people that asking the question, what am I here for? If you already know the ending, I mean, the rest of your life's going to be pretty boring, So there's something to be said for the mystery, because it has the potential to be even more amazing and bigger and better than you could possibly imagine in this moment.
I like it very much what you just said, the word mystery. I think that it really it describes perfectly and it should be like that. Otherwise, when we try to define it. I know I have done in exercises in the past, like defining my North Star or things like that, which, because I only try to do it intellectually from my mind, it is a very... the word that comes to mind, it's a fantasy of what I would like to achieve. And what you said, that the universe will probably have a very different and broader purpose for us. It's something that the word mystery, I highlighted that, I underlined it, so 100%.
Totally.
I wonder if I find this a very intriguing topic, and I think there is more we can discuss about that.
Yes, totally.
There was one other thing I wanted to add, running and the spiritual element. And I will share from my experience during especially the marathon, the very long run. There was a point during the run that I felt very much, detached from the physical sensation, like the pain that I had, disappeared, and I also detached from the inner dialogue, that constant chatter that, oh, I'm going to fall down and collapse and blah, 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 all these, fearful thoughts. And I connected with something that was deeper, something that was more peaceful, and it felt like there was only running. There was not me as a runner. It was just the act of running, and I would look around me and wonder what on earth is happening. And it was very, very peaceful experience, until the finish line, when I broke in tears from all the, the relief and all the emotional roller coaster. But I would love to hear your, experience in these things, having run so many races. I would love if you share.
Yes. Oh, I love that, Agi. Yes. The word peaceful, that really resonates because I also discovered this sort of peace. And, it's, as I look back at all the training runs and the marathons, I can't really remember, say, what I was thinking about. But on a really long run, you do sort of just stop thinking, and it's more about being in the moment. I would kind of coordinate my breath with my steps. So like breathing in for this many steps, breathing out for that many steps. And a lot of times I was focused on that. But I really do feel like I became more in the moment, more present, more mindful, if you will. And certainly in a lot of the races, running a course I had never seen before, there were some times when I think my favorite times were when I couldn't see anyone ahead of me and I couldn't see anyone behind me. And it was literally just all me alone in nature. And I felt so connected in those moments. Again, just that process, one foot in front of the other, where it's the running is sort of automatic. You're doing the thing, but looking around, just like you said, looking around like, wow, I'm really here. I'm really doing this. This is how amazing. So that sort of sense of connection to nature and the earth in the process of seeing on foot somewhere that you might never, go on foot or go at all. That definitely, I think that spiritual experience and that sense of spiritual connection really comes out on a long run.
What about the connection within yourself?
I love that. Yes, I think, again, not so much intellectualized, but just a sense of peace and ease of I didn't feel like I was worrying about what I was going to do after the run, or like I'm not thinking about my to-do list or the grocery list or anything like that. It's that being in the moment is a sense of connection with self and sort of self as a part of this great whole that we're all in. So I think in some ways, when I think about connection to the universe, that is connection to the self, because we are all the universe and the universe is all us. And so it's feeling of being completely at one, I think. That really, I do love that piece about running. Peace. Actually, I said that meaning P-I-E-C-E, but P-E-A-C-E. They're both good.
Yes, both of them.
Peace and peace.
And I personally can relate with this being in the moment when I'm out there and look around, and even if it is the same route that I usually do, outside where I live. It's beautiful, and after 1 or 2 minutes, I really can connect and be more present with the moment and leave the chatter of the mind and that inner dialogue and my grocery list or my to-do list, whatever it is, leave that aside for a while. So.
And it's also too a source of inspiration. I find, if I find myself at my desk trying to work something out, I know that as soon as I go for my run or my walk, sometimes I feel sort of like, oh no, if I don't have time for that, I have to sit here and work on this thing and figure this thing out, and figure it out is the death sentence, right? That's when you're trying too hard to figure it out with your mind and you're overthinking it. And that's exactly when you need to get out there and go for that run or walk, because the free association and the, first of all, just moving your body and doing something different actually allows in that creative space to be creative, and solutions come, and so sometimes I am out on a walk and the answer comes in, and so it's a really huge piece of the creative process too, I think.
Yes, can I add to that? I remember at some points I was preparing to give a public speech, and the runs before the last maybe 2 or 3 days before the speech, I would run and recite the talk while I was running. So I remember I was looking at the people around me that I would pass by. They would say, "This guy is running and speaking at the same time." So it is, and also inspired ideas come with that process. And what you said, I will also reiterate that it's very tempting sometimes in the way that we operate, that we want to do and go and more, and neglect things like this, which is physical activity. And I will put it very broadly. I mean, we're talking about running because we both love it, but not everyone enjoys running, but for me it doesn't matter. It's a matter of doing a physical activity that you enjoy doing, and that will certainly change your emotional state as well, and you will get better ideas. And sometimes if you get one good idea, like when you go for a run, it might save you 5 months of work, not the half an hour that you dedicated to run. So never underestimate how powerful these inspired thoughts come to us. And you said the phrase "figure it out." Yes, when we only utilize our left brain to try and solve problems and figure it out, then we neglect a very important part of our aspect of who we are and what makes us who we are.
Absolutely. Yes. Oh, I love that. Yeah, because we do have so many sources of knowing. Sometimes it's just, Gnostic knowing, what they call Gnostic, and just as an intuitive sense of knowing what's right, or through the right brain and the left brain working together. But we do tend to live in a world that only values the left brain side of it. So we've, in some cases, grown up being a little bit disconnected from all our other sources of wisdom, or being taught that because we can't necessarily defend how we know something, that it's not valid. So it's totally valid. And so you don't have to explain how you know what you know. Just trust your own knowing.
We tend to want to scientific proof, evidence for everything, but what you just said, and the word trust that you use, trust in your knowing, and we know very well, I think, how that feels like, and of course following that, it is a process that doesn't happen naturally or easily to everyone, but I believe it is a process, something to learn and practice and get better at.
Yes, and allowing it to happen, and doing, like you said, more. It doesn't have to be running, but doing a physical activity, doing something that engages your whole body, brings in all of those different sources, and so you can. They're muscles that you can strengthen, just like your body. So,
I wanted to ask you quick 2 comments from your marathons. One was the marathon in Greece, because it's my home country. So if you would just give me 2 comments about that, but also the one in Antarctica, which is probably the most exotic one. What was that? How was that different than everything else, apart from the cold, of course?
Yes. Let's see. Well, so for Greece, this one was really special because we actually ran from the town or the plain of Marathon to Athens. So we ran the original marathon course. And so really running in the footsteps of history was phenomenal. It was just super inspiring. And as we were talking about a little bit before, it was really, so I'm from Dallas, Texas, in the United States, and we had learned about, Greece and ancient Greece in school. And to go to Greece and go through, for instance, the Agora, and there's a little sign that says Socrates walked here, and I mean, I'm sitting here like, wow, that's really cool. You don't see that every day, and so kind of seeing all those things that literally I had just learned about in books, but seeing them being at the Parthenon, and that was really special. It was really cool. So it was a great experience in Greece. Yeah. Antarctica was certainly an experience as well. It was actually not as cold as I might have expected. We went at the end of February, which is the end of the Antarctic summer. So it was actually 40 degrees Fahrenheit, but it was 40 miles an hour wind, and it was raining, and it was muddy, and it was rocky. And so we at least I definitely felt like I had run in Antarctica by the end of it. I was covered in mud, and it was really intense. And it was, that was also just sort of a surreal place to be, in Antarctica. We ran on King George Island in the peninsula, where there were different bases for different countries. So there was a Russian base and a Chilean base, Uruguayan, and in China. And we just kind of ran from base to base, kind of running through all the countries, and it was several looped course. So we passed, each other, the fellow runners, several times, and that was really nice for cheering each other on. But just Antarctica in general, the race was sort of, muddy and rainy and all that kind of thing. But then after that, we were actually on a ship. So we had sailed across from Ushuaia at the tip of Argentina, and the next day we crossed the Bransfield Strait and woke up in, penguin iceberg heaven. So just the icebergs, the sound of ice cracking, just being in this place that was so pristine, that so few people have actually been, was absolutely incredible. So that was another super unique, really phenomenal experience, for sure.
You have depicted in some of your photographs, which I'm saying again, they are spectacular. Very, very much enjoyed them. Melissa, there is one other question I wanted to... Well, there are many. That's a lie. It's not just one. There are many that I wanted to ask you. But there was something in particular that intrigued me very much because of my own podcast, which is called Personal Development Mastery. And there was a comment, I don't remember if it was your website that I read it. You had made a comment about... mastery of personal development and how it is learning that it is not something you can master. It is in a way it's a contradiction, and I find this topic very fascinating because when I named my podcast 2.5 years ago like this, I thought it's a cool name. That's why I named it like that. And then I realized what was going on in the title mastery and the weight that it carried with it and the personal development. And I thought, how can I ever achieve personal development mastery? And it scared me. And then I came to some conclusion similar to what you said, that because we are always growing, mastery is understanding that we can't achieve the mastery of personal development. It's ongoing. So I wanted some comments from you on that.
I love it. And it's a great name. I think that we are drawn to it because people want to feel like they have that they have a sense of personal development and that they are on track, but as you say, I do think that the mastery itself is learning and trusting that it is a process. So it's not the finish line of a marathon. It's the hill at the top, that's somewhere along the way in the marathon, or preparing for the second marathon, like you said, it's sort of a series of marathons. So it's not something that will ever be finished. We are always growing and learning, and we are works in progress. So on the journey of mastery, it's really about the mastery itself is trusting, bringing up the word mystery again, trusting in the mystery. That's what the mastery is. Learning how to dance with the universe and dance with life, knowing that we don't know the answers, but we know how to go about being in such a way that we live in alignment with who we really are. So mastery is not about achieving a certain number of degrees or whatever life successes of any kind and racking up the trophies, as it were. It's really about being able to be in the moment and be with your own creative process.
Wonderful. Thank you very much for that description. I liked you said dancing with the universe. It was so beautiful how you said it.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Melissa, I would like to ask you also some quick fire questions to start wrapping the conversation up today. And the first one I always ask is, what does personal development mean to you?
To me, it means being who you are. And sort of like we were just talking about, I think trusting that you're always learning and growing, that you're perfect just as you are, but that there's always growth to be had. So it doesn't mean that you're failing in some way or that you're not good enough already. We have plenty of not good enough stories, right? But so let go of the not good enough story and allow yourself to just grow and have fun with it.
And let me ask you a hypothetical question. If you could go back in time and meet your 18-year-old self, what's one piece of advice you would give her?
This is an interesting question. I think because I truly believe that every experience happens for a reason and shapes us into who we are. So I don't want to give her too much information, but I would say you are absolutely on the right path. You are powerful, special, and unique, and you have the power to create your own future. So anyway, I'll just pause there. You have the power to create your future and boldly go into that future.
That's great. And I'm always, I find it very important to give to the listener something actionable, which I believe we already have so far. But if you were now to give to the listener one more actionable item or something maybe that we've said earlier on, something they can implement to, grow and change, what would you tell them?
Yes. Great question. I think this comes back a little bit to the crossroads and thinking about life purpose. And, I think a lot of times we feel pressure to define our life purpose as something that we do. But to me, life purpose is really about being your full self. So your purpose is to be who you are. It's to be the fullest expression of you. It's not about what you do. That sometimes adds an additional layer of stress, like, well, I don't know what that means. So what I would suggest to anybody sort of seeking personal development and what does really light them up, I would say take 10 minutes, set a timer for 10 minutes and do something that really brings you joy and just have fun with it. Take, 10 minutes out of your day, which you probably spend on Facebook, take that 10 minutes for yourself. And it could be, going for a quick walk or just stepping outside and feeling the sun on your face. It could be putting on some music and dancing around to it. It could be reading a passage from a favorite book or whatever it is. If it's, say you want to go skiing, but, you don't live by a snowy mountain and you only have 10 minutes, maybe sit and visualize yourself skiing and see it and feel it. What is the feeling it would bring you? Coming back to the feeling is what we're going for. It's not a goal itself. So the point of all this is to get out of your head about what should I do with my life or what is my purpose, and to get into your body and really feel what brings you joy. Because you being in your joy is your life purpose. And that's what actually helps the entire world, because it raises the consciousness and the vibration of the planet. So that's something you can make progress on today, so it doesn't have to be that giant leap like quitting your job. It can be, how do I bring 10 minutes of joy into my day today?
I like that very much. You said what brings you joy is your life purpose. And I completely will agree with that. Melissa, what is the best place for people to connect with you and find out more about you? And also share with us about your coaching. Who do you coach and what it is that you help them with?
Yes, absolutely. So my website is resilienceactually.com. You can find me there. And then I'm also on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn at Melissa Corley Carter. So those are all places you can find me. And as far as coaching, I work with big dreamers and high achievers who have a big dream burning inside, and maybe it feels kind of too wild and crazy. Maybe the world says it's impossible. Maybe you've had a door close in your face and you might be afraid to dream big again, or maybe you've achieved all of your goals sort of maybe sooner than you expect and you're ready to plan for phase 2 or 3. So really helping people get move past those existential things that might be blocking them from really living their most profound, aligned, powerful, and purposeful life. It's a really just aligning with your true purpose. Which is being you.
And I think that theme has been in our conversation all along. This thing of this purpose. Maybe not. It was subtle at times, but I think it's been throughout the conversation. So I want to thank you very much for your time today, for sharing your wisdom, your wonderful experiences with me today. I want to wish you all the very best. Any last parting words?
Thank you so much, Agi, for your time and sharing your experiences. It has been an absolute joy. And my last words would be, you don't need to run a marathon on all 7 continents to have an epic life. You are already powerful, special, and unique, and you are here to make a difference, not by what you do, but by being you. Thank you so much, Agi.
I hope you enjoyed listening and that you got a huge amount of value from today's episode. If you have, please share this episode with someone who you think will benefit from it. If you want to know more about what I do, visit my website 𝗁𝗁𝗺𝗃.com. And until next time, stand out, don't fit in,